everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. My name is Mike Smith, and with me is Bradley Hargis. Ethan is our engineer, and Cameron. And of course, we welcome you to another broadcast of the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. And we're going to talk about sports in general, high school sports, college, professional, just whatever, even tiddlywinks if that is your passion. First off, before we begin, we want to congratulate the Van Buren County Lady Eaglet basketball squad. They made it all the way to state championship game in Class A. Unfortunately, fell a little bit short by 3 points, but there's really nothing wrong with the effort they put out this year. They had no seniors on that team, so they're going to be talent heavy next year, and they'll have another shot at it this year. And of course, I know Bradley's wife Emily is, despite all the efforts we do to try to convert her to being a Warrior fan, that she remains an Eagle fan.
She would whip me if I told you all this, but she was watching the Van Buren County game with me on the television. We were going to go to it, but we ended up not going because she didn't want to get in the storm. But while we were watching the game, I just happened to look over, and she's wearing a blue shirt. And on the front of that blue shirt, it said Bledsoe County Warriors.
Uh-oh.
And I said, hey, honey, I said, that's kind of nice that you're supporting the Eagles, but you're showing your true colors here at home, blue and gold. And yeah, I thought she's starting to get up and change, but I said, no, you can't. Van Buren's doing good. I'm a sucker for traditions, and if you change shirts, you're going to.
I'm going to hang that over you for the rest of your life, Bradley. If you're sure of this, because I'll tell you what you said on that show. Tell her to tune in and broadcast.
Well, she knows. I told her. She was there. Remember, I told her. She heard me.
She probably sicked that cat on you. That's what she did. No. She probably sicked that poor innocent little kitty cat on you. Anyway, but then congratulations to Van Buren County for the great effort they put out, and also congratulations to York Institute Dragons for their effort as they got into to Murfreesboro, as well as a number of other teams as well. Congratulations to every one of those teams, and congratulations to the Lady Warriors and Warrior basketball team for the effort they put out this year. They didn't quite get there, but still, that shows you how competitive that they are. Okay, now that basketball is over, we're going to go into the spring sports, and of course, flag football. And of course, the girls a couple of weeks ago played their first home game. Probably close to about 300 fans showed out, which is great for flag football, and they won over 18 to nothing over, I believe, over Silverdale.
Yeah,
I believe so. Congratulations! They won their first home game in history over
Stone Memorial.
Okay. And
either way, that's first win at home.
Actually, the very first game they played at home, they won that 18 to nothing. So congratulations to them. The baseball team, well, I can say this right now, they are much improved in other ways. They've had an excellent start off to their season. In fact, they've pretty much been beaten up on just about everybody.
Well, they started off 7-0.
Yeah. And
then they've only dropped 2 games. They're 9-2.
Yeah.
Right now, 4-0 in the district play. And apparently, from what I understand, they've not really got deep into district play yet. They have played 4 games already in the district, but they've still got Sequatchie and those games coming up. But Bledsoe right now is tied with Sequatchie 4-0 in the district. They're tied for first place.
That will be on April 1st, but it was rescheduled because of the bad weather, and basically it was really too cold to go play. Both baseball and softball teams will be playing at home on April 1st. That'll be next Tuesday. It'll be 5:30 for the softball team, approximately a little after for the baseball team, but we want everybody to show up for that game next week against Sequatchie County. So
it's the softball they play in Sequatchie, but the baseball they play in Marion.
Oh, well, anyway, but like I said, but
it is a makeup game.
Yeah, it'll be a makeup game at least on April 1st. So for that as well, the girls have been doing fairly well. One of the worst performances I've seen this year in the softball season was Tyner. They didn't have a team last year. They put together a team this year, and he watched that game in 2.5 innings where Bledsoe won 12 to nothing. And what it was is that Tyner, in the top of the first, they actually had a runner on third in scoring position when they said something to the umpire that the umpire didn't like, and basically out. And that pretty much ended their scoring threat. Then Tyner beaned Bledsoe players 3 times. sold it in 2 runs in, and it was not a good night. I never seen a team that didn't really know how to pitch. That's the first time I've seen Tyner, because basically they were throwing those balls wild.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, coming in, I mean, you have 1 or 2 people that can really at least get the ball out of the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're trying to build a team and get things back in the swing over there, but it's just not there. It's going to take some time for Tyner to build back up, to have a competitive softball team.
Their facilities are in the process of being built right now with the new high school. Their gym, after they had the district tournament and into the region run for the Tyner men's team, which was a very good team, they have torn down that gym, and basically now that will be they'll have new facilities in the fall, I believe.
Yep.
And new football field, new facilities. I think the football field probably going to take a little longer, so they're going to be probably.
Yeah. Well, the softball girls are 3-2. I mean, they're number 1 in the district. They're 2-0. Sequatchie County is 1-0, is right behind them in second place. They've only lost to Chattanooga Christian, which is a private school, and Saudi, which is a much larger school with a deeper talent pool. But they've won the games they should have won. I mean, they've won. Like I said, they're 3-2. They got a pretty good team. Josie Potter, is one of their main pitchers. She's already committed to go to a college in Alabama. So I mean, they've got talent this year again, and I think it's going to be an interesting season for both baseball and for softball as they continue to go on. This is probably the best start and probably the best season thus far that Bledsoe County baseball's had in recent memory.
Right.
And it's just a pride thing. They're starting to play better. They're starting to get trained up better. And, I mean, you've got Tucker Shaver is exceptional on the mound. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Very good pitcher. Dallas Bridges, football boy, is one of the lead hitters. Dallas Bridges, Jacob White, and Reagan Robertson. They are just kind of heading up, and among others, I mean, are heading up this team and are doing very well. And I'm excited to see spring sports come about: baseball and softball, flag football, boys soccer. I mean, all those things are.
Boys soccer will be playing this Saturday, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're 2-0-1 right now, so you could say they're undefeated.
Oh.
They tied Monterey 3-3 last week, but they got a full season ahead of them. The boys aren't even halfway through the baseball season. The boys soccer, like I said, there's 3 games in for quite a lengthy season, so there's plenty of avenues and ways you can go and support the teams and support the Bledsoe County Warriors boys and girls sports this spring. There's a lot of opportunities for you.
Coach Tabor was watching the flag football team, and I kidded him. Oh, you're scouting out the potential players for the football team. They're actually quite talented, and actually threw some very, very good passes on there. So I said, you can get yourself a quarterback out of that way. I don't think there's any rule against girls playing on a football team. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was watching the Brainerd Bledsoe County game before the softball game started out. It was 25-0 after 2 innings, and they decided to call this off before it got any worse, because it had been easily 50-0.
Yeah.
It was 20-0 at the end of 1 inning, so it tells you right there that Brainerd was not a good team. That's I would say
Well, you look at teams like Brainerd and Tyner. I mean, they're historically they are football and basketball
powers, yeah.
That is their bread and butter. Baseball, volleyball, softball, those are all, secondary or, even third tier sports for them. But basketball and football is their go-to.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you that. I mean, they're just you develop time, and Bledsoe County's done a good job, and we are typically in history, and even more so, even today, I'll go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
We are a football heavy school.
We are.
Because that brings out more support,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not any fault of anybody, but
no.
But Bledsoe has done a good job in the last several years of doing a better job of sharing the wealth and support.
Absolutely.
Meaning and that's why you see a rise in the other programs. We talk about this, all the time. about how one being successful spills over into the others. Well, that also goes from, that's altogether true for fans and pride and willingness to play, but it also goes into the monetary support too. When you have the right people in the right places to make sure that those funds are funneled in where they should be, and not just put into one or two sports, you start seeing some success. And softball has earned their keep. Baseball is doing very well. Then we have flag football, boys soccer. We have football in the fall. We have
archery,
girls soccer in the fall, archery, volleyball. All of those things are coming and doing better, and it's an exciting time for Bledsoe County sports.
Yeah, I would say right now, the facilities have been upgraded significantly. The new softball stadium in the past couple of years, new seating, new restrooms, concession stands. The baseball stadium is, and plans are made to rehab the football stadium to more or less get it more into a modern type of standard. And of course, we've seen that happen over a number of years. But like I said, it all takes one thing. It takes money. It takes money, and it's not cheap to upgrade these facilities. But people are putting the money into it and doing it. I just hope somehow that we do not have artificial turf on the field. That'd be a bit much, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I talked to a couple of weeks ago, we were going to play South Pittsburgh in a softball game. Unfortunately, the weather sort of killed that plan. So I was talking to this South Pittsburgh coach in the gym when it was sort of waiting for the official word to go down. I asked him, and this is what I asked him. I said, "Is Marion and South Pittsburgh going to play football ever again?" And the answer was no. He said, because the simple fact of the matter is that the tensions are still too high, too up, too tight. And basically, they felt that they didn't want to bring these ugly things back up out to the surface again. And that tells you what it is. And he said, and he agreed with me that Bledsoe and Sequatchie County have replaced that as the premier rivalry in the Sequatchie Valley, because Bledsoe and Sequatchie County is not going to stop playing each other. That's all there is to it. You don't have the type of tension that you had with South Pittsburgh, Marion County.
Right.
And well,
South Pittsburgh and Marion County, they're the same county, and they're likely related to people too on both sides of that school. But that's just a bitter. I don't like to use this word, but there's no way I can describe it. It's just a bitter hatred. Of each other. At least with Sequatchie County, we don't like one another when we play them, but it's more like a sibling rivalry than anything.
Yeah.
We want to beat them. Obviously, they want to beat us. But when it comes down to it, we are more apt to wish for their success in other things as long as they're not playing us.
Yeah.
Of course, that depends on who you ask, but it's kind of one of those things. Like when I was talking about Van Buren on Facebook the other day, a lot of my Bledsoe County friends when they played basketball, that was a big rivalry. It was Van Buren, and there's still some animosity there. But I'm like, you know what? I got family over there too, and very good friends, and I want to see the small town succeed.
Yeah.
And any time that they can go, and I was cheering for them. I was like, I wanted them to win. And of course, the vast majority of people that commented on that thread were in agreement. But I do know there was a handful of people that were not, that didn't comment on that thread, and that's okay. You can have your personal feelings about it if you want. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want Sequatchie County to succeed, so long as they're not playing us.
That's sort of thing. But you have to look at it this way: is that too often the press would concentrate on Marion and South Pittsburgh as the premier thing. They would hardly ever comment on Bledsoe and Sequatchie County.
Yeah.
And unless like they suddenly start winning a whole bunch of games and they suddenly get attention. So I think basically Bledsoe Sequatchie County will be the premier rivalry in the valley for some time to come in the inter-tri-state area. Okay, everybody, when we come back, we're going to start talking about college sports, basketball, the NCAA tournament, the NIT, and basically the transfer portal and opening up for basketball players and various other things relating to that, to college basketball. As you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Tales Cooperative 18.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, so what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, we are back. Now we're going to get to the college sports, the NCAA tournament, basketball games, the NIT, and various things relating to that matter. Of course, the NCAA tournament, they picked 14 teams from the SEC, 7 which are still alive, and one is certain to advance to the Elite Eight, and that is Kentucky versus Tennessee. That will be a SEC rematch up in Ohio, and that should be a very interesting game. Tennessee, of course, lost twice to Kentucky this season, but a lot of people are feeling that Tennessee is probably going to win this one big. Bradley, how do you think this one's going to go?
Well, I'm one of those things that with a game like that, neither team wants to give the opposing team any kind of fuel. Mm-hmm. Now, I know we're talking about men's basketball, but I'm going to change gears for a second. Okay. Just to illustrate this point, the Tennessee Lady Vols played in Columbus,
right,
Ohio.
Right.
Played Ohio State,
right,
last round. Ohio State's player made the comment in an interview that Tennessee is not going to come onto our court and beat us in our house. Okay? Tennessee wins. Tennessee advances to the Sweet 16. Now, I tell you that to tell you this. Kentucky beat us at Thompson Bowling Arena 78-73 earlier in the year. We played them at Lexington. They beat us 75-64. There is a player, I do not remember his name, but he was being interviewed by ESPN, and they asked him, made the comment that it's very difficult to beat the same team twice, let alone 3 times. So how are you handling preparation for this game? And he looked at that reporter and he kind of grinned and he said, "We got this." He said, "It's in the bag."
He said he guaranteed that he would beat Tennessee.
And I was like, I don't know about that.
And he had a Joe Namath moment.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's going to be a good game, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Anytime Tennessee and Kentucky plays, it's going to be a good game. You can rest assured. Now it's got a little bit more of an incentive because they're in the Sweet 16, chance to advance to the Elite 8, and neutral court. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting. If Tennessee can play like Tennessee is capable of playing, and Kentucky plays like they're capable of playing, I'm thinking it's probably going to be a 4 to 5 point affair.
Absolutely.
And what I think is going to really push Tennessee over the edge, if Ziegler can put 20 points on the board,
Right.
if he himself can pull 20 points, everyone else will follow.
Yeah.
And I think Tennessee will be okay. But it's going to rely on, I mean, the way the NCAA is right now, live and die with a 3-ball.
Mm-hmm.
And if Tennessee is on, they're hard to beat. If
Yeah.
Tennessee is on, they're hard to beat. So Kentucky's going to have the work cut out for them, no doubt. And, of course, the winner of Kentucky-Tennessee will play the winner of Purdue and Houston. Houston's a 1 seed, by the way.
Yeah.
And Purdue's still a good team. They have a few that lost to graduation and transfer, but they're still a pretty good team. And I think Tennessee, if they were to get by Kentucky, and that remains to be seen because it's going to be hard for them to do, but it is doable. It will be a good matchup in the Elite Eight with Purdue or Houston. And I think if Tennessee can go through Kentucky, having already played Auburn, having already played Florida in the season, now we're talking top 5 teams all the way around.
Right.
I think they have a really good shot of hanging with Houston or Purdue
Absolutely.
and going into the Final Four. But let's not get the cart before the horse. We got to play Kentucky first, and let's win that ball game, and then worry about whoever we play next.
Of course, Ziegler had 29 points against Wofford.
Mm-hmm.
Wofford and 20 against UCLA, which was a decent team. And so as a result, Tennessee and Kentucky in an SEC rematch. There's still 7 teams in the SEC still alive. Tennessee, by the way, Tennessee is the only SEC team that appeared in the college football playoffs and the Elite Eight.
Sweet 16.
Well, Sweet 16. The Sweet 16.
Well, you think about it. I mean, not just that. They are the only school that had one in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that had one in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
In men's basketball, the Sweet 16 in
Women's
women's
basketball.
basketball, and they're coming off a World Series win last spring.
Yeah.
With the Tennessee Vols winning it all there in Omaha. So they have a lot of victories coming in and pouring into that Tennessee program, and it's not just Tennessee with the way the transfer portal is, the competition has went crazy at almost every school. It's gotten so much better, and it's evened up competition.
Absolutely.
So it's I love this time of year. I love March Madness. And I know that with March coming, then spring is right here around the corner. Opening day of baseball is tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. But there's so many things that are happening early spring and March. And I watch basketball during the season, but March Madness is my thing. I love the tournament because that's, it's just, there's something about the tournament that gets me, men and women.
Absolutely.
And the women, by the way, they're playing Texas. Texas is the number 1 seed. Lost to Texas earlier in the season, 80-76, but that was in Austin.
Yeah.
And the Lady Vols being in the Sweet 16, the only team to make it to every women's tournament has been the Lady Vols. And Caldwell, they interviewed her and mentioned that to her, and she said, "I'm just glad to be the coach that didn't blow it."
Yeah.
So, I mean, that says something about a program. I mean,
yeah, that's tells you what it is. There's a story they told about John Ward. John Ward in the early days did Lady Vols basketball as well as the men's basketball and football, and they were going to the tournament, which was known as the AIAW back in those days. And he said he was going down there, and the driver said, "Hey, I want to stop at a McDonald's. I'm hungry, that sort of thing." And he said, "Oh, no, we need to get there on time." Well, they had been there the day before the game played, plenty of times. So he said, "Oh, come on, John, come on, Ward. We can stop at a McDonald's. It ain't going to kill you." So he goes, so they stop at the McDonald's, and everybody gets out. No, I'll order the stuff, you'll get stuff. So they ordered all the stuff, including one ordered a fish fillet and a milk. Okay. He goes in and gets it out there. Tennessee wins. Okay, next week they're going to another tournament game. And he says, gets in the car and he says, "Stop it. We don't stop at any McDonald's and all that." So they stop at another McDonald's. And he said, "Well, I want, no, I got the order list and that sort of thing." And he ordered it. won again. Third time, they actually had another person in there with them. And they stop at a McDonald's and he orders the same thing, but the woman says, I don't like fish and I don't like milk. Tennessee loses. And John Ward, for years after, whenever he would see that woman, I said, if you eaten that fish sandwich and that milk, Tennessee would have had 9 national championships.
Yeah.
That tells you how funny that is. But but by the way, let's talk about the NIT. The Moccasins of Chattanooga are in the Final Four. They knocked off, by the way, a school called Bradley University. Okay, Bradley, your name didn't.
No affiliation.
No affiliation.
No affiliation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, when you see all the Bradley County, you say it's
No
named after
affiliation.
me. Yeah, sure.
No affiliation.
Anyway, but they're in New York for the NIT, and I remember this 40 years ago, in 1985. Chattanooga was on a great run, like they did this year. They played in the NIT, and they beat Lamar in 4 overtimes, and they had to go to Louisville to play Louisville at Louisville. Of course, they lost to Louisville. Now the Vols men team went to the NIT. They went to the Final Four in New York City, and they finished 3rd. Now that's 40 years ago. So the similarities are there for both teams, for both the Vols and the Moccasins this year. Both are looking for a shot at the Moccasins, hoping for an NIT championship. They won a national championship in 1972 when they were Division 2. They were Division 2. They were not major college basketball material. That was a big thing because that was their big thing. That was their national championship.
Yeah.
So that basically, so the Mocs want to have another championship banner. NIT used to be bigger than the NCAA up to about the late 60s.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Anyway, but the NIT used to be the bigger tournament before for the NCAA. It used to be the bigger tournament. The people
So the NIT now stands for not in
invited,
tournament.
not in the tournament, or not invited.
Not
tournament.
in tournament.
Or not invited tournament. That's another one.
It's national invitational.
You know, a lot of things. LSU turned down an invitation to the NIT. Because they felt that they should have been NCAA bound. Mississippi State got in there and lost. So a lot of things happening here. Of course, still Tennessee and the Lady Vols and the Vols have a lot to play for. Would it be wonderful if both the Lady Vols and the Vols win the national title in basketball?
That'd be really cool.
UConn did that a few years back, I seem to recall.
Yeah, they did. I think it was last year, wasn't it? South Carolina went last year.
Carolina. I think it was 5-10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, but the Sweet 16 for the men, I believe it's Friday and Saturday.
The Vols play Friday.
Vols play Friday. Wisconsin-Purdue plays Friday. Ole Miss plays Friday against Michigan State. And Michigan plays Auburn Friday. And then the other 8 teams play on Saturday.
I've seen a lot of wild things. They some are predicting an Auburn-Tennessee rematch in the national championship game for the men, which would be interesting.
Well, the way it's set up right now, you have the potentially, if things were to play out this way, you could have an all-SEC Final Four.
That's right, you could.
But in order for that to happen, obviously Alabama would have to beat Duke.
Yeah. Because
they are in that quadrant of the tournament. Tennessee or Kentucky would have to beat Houston or Purdue, and you still have Ole Miss, Auburn in that quadrant. I mean, so you've still got the potential for an all SEC Final Four. Florida, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky are all in separate quadrants. And you still have Arkansas that's alive, playing Texas Tech on Saturday. Duke plays Arizona on Saturday. Alabama plays BYU. And you have Florida playing Maryland. So a lot of basketball still to play. I mean,
the only SEC matchup is Tennessee and Kentucky.
Right.
And I think is that, well, you're going to remember this right now. I think it was sort of freaked out the Kentucky faithful that Tennessee went to Rupp and won twice on that by considerable scores.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I think Kentucky would like to take on Tennessee at Rupp, but that ain't going to happen. But that sort of thing. Now, let's talk a little about the spring football. Of course, spring football practice is going on for the SEC teams everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Tennessee's spring game is April 12th. I think it's about 2 p.m. Kickoff. You can buy tickets to that game. And that should be very, very interesting. Of course, they're talking about spring football games, the spring games, as sort of being like an obsolete thing. You know, it's not, it's not all that important. I think a couple of SEC teams are not going to have spring games and that sort of thing. They feel that they could use the time for more productive things.
Well, the spring game really all it is a souped up upscale scrimmage,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing that I like about the spring game is it's more geared toward the fans.
Yeah.
You allow your faithfuls to come in and watch the game. Sometimes get down there and meet the players.
Yeah.
And have that camaraderie going on. That's I think that is what the spring game should be, and those who are electing not to have the spring game, that's fine, but have a team media day to allow people to come, see the players, even just have a practice, a 7-on-7 or something.
Yeah.
Give them a taste of what is to come and let them kind of have that moment with their favorite team, because most of the time at these, you see a lot of this especially at the orange and white game, at the Alabama spring game when they would have it. All the teams, you see a lot of young kids. These kids really, for lack of better words, idolize some of these players.
Yeah.
And not that I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. But these kids look up to these guys and just think that they are just awesome. And many of them are, and that gives them a chance to meet them, gives them a chance to be one-on-one, face-to-face with them, and that's important for the kids. That's important for the young people. I think
it's very important because I'll tell you the reason why. First off, is that I would go down to spring games. I don't go much to them anymore, and they would have they used to have the fans day separate from the spring game. Now of course they do it the same way. You go down to the field, you get to check out the field conditions, and you look at the field yourself, and you get to meet some of the players, and it's very, very, very lax time, and really it gives these players who maybe just been recruited a chance to go out and show themselves in a game type situation. And I think that's very important because really is as George Caffico, a longtime football player and coach for a long time, he said if you stay, you will play. Basically means you're going to get your chance, and then a lot of guys come out and and that sort of thing. And so you see, because when Josh Heupel came to UT, nobody knew exactly what they expected to see, And then when they had the spring game out there, it's like suddenly one pass every 5 seconds. They were just like they were going like full speed, and I said, God, this is a different team entirely. You used with Jeremy Pruitt, it's like you could sit there and say you can go up and get a glass of water, come back, and they haven't run the play yet.
Yeah.
It's like if you went to glass of water, you miss half the game, and that sort of thing. And I think that was very, very important. So yeah, I think is that you're going to have spring games. Of course, you're going to have an opportunity for the backups to play that you're not going to see very often during a real game situation. Now they talked about one time about maybe scheduling the Vols and the Mocs to play a game during like a spring game. Mm-hmm. Both they would come up to Knoxville and would play, and that would be draw. You wouldn't have SEC versus SEC.
Right.
You would like have a smaller school and maybe couldn't afford to really have a spring game. We'll come up and hey, we'll pay you $100,000. You come up here and get slaughtered. That sort of thing. But that's that sort of thing. Now we're going to go to baseball and softball. The Vols, of course, started out 20-0 baseball, and they lost a couple of games. They lost to a smaller team by a few runs, and they lost to Alabama. They end up owning the series, which
Well,
they had not lost.
The week they went to number one, they lose to ETSU,
Yeah.
and then Bama upset them, but we did win that series.
Yeah,
They won the first game, we won the last two, so we didn't get the sweep, but we're still 23-2, and Tennessee sits atop of the polls again
Yeah.
as number one. And the interesting thing, number 1, 2, and 3 in the baseball poll right now are all SEC teams. Tennessee, Arkansas, and Georgia are all in the top. They're all top 3 in that order. And you look at the top 10, you have, I mean, the top 25 is just a wealth of SEC teams, and it's one of those super conferences. I mean, the top 5 teams,
Yeah.
only one of them is out of the South, and that's Oregon State.
Yeah,
And number 5.
I'll tell you the reason. I was watching this thing last night. History of the SEC. Now, what it was, the history of the SEC. Now, the SEC really formed because most of those members were members of the Southern Conference. Okay, and the Southern Conference got too big, too many 30 teams, and they had no way of saying who was a champion and who was not. And so they decided, well, we're going to have the SEC. Other teams, like Texas teams, formed the Southwest Conference and that sort of thing. And then they split up, forming the ACC out of the Southern Conference. And, it was that sort of thing. And the SEC immediately sort of established itself as the power conference in track and field. LSU won the very first national championship in the SEC in track and field in 1933. Not football, but track and field. National championship. And they sort of thing. And they said is that 13 teams originally, Sewanee dropped out because basically is that if you ever seen the Sewanee football field, it's not Neyland Stadium by any means. And they just could not keep up recruiting. In fact, they never played a conference game at home. They all had to go on the road because the teams wouldn't go there, would not go to Sewanee to play, and as a result, they dropped out when they stopped giving out scholarships. So that meant basically they were out of the SEC. And then, of course, Georgia Tech and Tulane left. Georgia Tech didn't like the recruiting that was done and tried to get it changed. And Bobby Dodd said, "Hey, we're getting out of here." Tulane basically because they didn't have much of a football team.
Well, in state, I mean, Tulane's battling with LSU. Georgia Tech was battling with Georgia. It's hard enough to compete with the other SEC teams, let alone a premier team within the boundaries of your own state.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really have a pipeline that way because most of the top tier teams are going to get the talent. So it makes it difficult.
Bear Bryant, when he was at Kentucky, was insist because the university said he could only award 5 out-of-state scholarships to football players. And he said Kentucky didn't have enough talent. Kentucky and Tennessee really is talent poor when it comes to SEC schools. You go to Florida, you go to California, Georgia, North Carolina, you go to all those other places where you got the talent. And you just don't have enough of that in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Still to a point that's true. You don't have that much talent in the state of Tennessee. Oh, you might get a gem or two, like this, but there's not that much talent. So basically is that they did that. And then, of course, the Southwest Conference, they said Arkansas got tired of being in a probation-riddled conference, so they went to the SEC. Texas A&M wanted to go to the SEC in the first place, but so they went to the Big 12, and then they went to the SEC. And Texas wanted to go to the SEC, but against the legislature state, so they went to the Big 12 and then went to the SEC. And Oklahoma the same way.
Yeah.
So, and now Oklahoma State wants to bring back the Bedlam series. Against Oklahoma.
That's one rivalry that, aside from the Oklahoma Texas, that's probably that's huge for people of Oklahoma. I mean, to get those two teams play again, I understand that, but it's just a matter of time before the Oklahoma State is going to want to be in the SEC, and the SEC is going to expand again. But I don't know why they would.
Texas A&M. Texas A&M was not thrilled about Texas coming into the SEC. They got away from them. They wanted to get away from them.
Right.
And then they had this big rivalry, Texas A&M back again and all that. To be honest with you, I think that Texas A&M probably should tell the SEC, hey, look, we don't want to play Texas.
Yeah.
Except maybe
Well, I
internally.
mean, you had teams like Clemson and Florida State
Mhm.
and even Georgia Tech there, but South Carolina was bucking against getting Clemson. Florida was against getting Florida State, and among others, and then Georgia was against Georgia Tech. You know, so I mean, you have in-state schools like that, rivalries. I mean, I'd say if Memphis tried to get in, I would say that Vanderbilt and Tennessee would not want that.
No, what it is, that's one of the reasons why Tennessee does not play Memphis anymore.
Yeah.
Because basically it's too much trouble. You know, there's a story Bill Curry told about how when he was scouting for the Green Bay Packers, and he stopped at the University of Alabama and talked to him, and he said, everybody knows him, come on up here, come up to my tower, Bill. He comes up onto the tower, and he says, you know, and there was a feud going on between Bobby Dodd and Bear Bryant over the whole Granny incident in 1961, where supposedly an Alabama player hit a Georgia Tech player so bad he had to go to the hospital for stitches, and Bobby Dodd apparently didn't think too much of that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what happened was that he said, I know Georgia Tech's interested about getting into the SEC, back into the SEC, because Georgia Tech was not having great success out there. I said, I'll sponsor him if he wants to go in there, but I said, and he said, but me and Bobby Dodd, we're too old to be feuding anymore. Well, he gets back to Bobby Dodd, and Bobby Dodd says, you know, you're right, maybe this stop this feuding, but no, we're not going to go back into the SEC. So they didn't. They went to the ACC later. But you know, you got to look at these conferences now. You know, the Pac-12 is not going to be the Pac-12 in the sense of the word it used to be. Okay, you got the Big Ten. Why don't they call it the Big 16? I mean, just I don't know.
It's
Big Ten and a little 6.
the Power 4 conferences now, because like you mentioned, the Pac-12 is all but dissolved. I mean, they've added a few new ones into it, but they're smaller schools. They're not going to be able to compete with the big guys. But SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12 is really all you're going to have.
Stanford and the ACC, come on, that's left coast.
Geographically speaking,
left
that
coast.
makes absolutely no sense. And something's going to have to be done. I mean, I think the NCAA will eventually step in, and when they do, what I think is going to happen. Now, this is just me thinking, and maybe I'm just in my wild imagination, like I tend to have a lot of times. But what I see happening is the SEC outreach and begins to expand beyond what the NCAA wants them to do, and eventually, I see the NCAA stepping in and saying, okay, these big conferences, we're going to have to break them up. And like you did, talking about the Southeast Conference, has
SEC.
that Southwest, Southeast, all that, Southern Conference. So I think they're probably going to try to step in. And when they do, the SEC has a big enough market, specifically in football, and now in baseball and basketball and softball, they have a big enough market that they can pull away from the NCAA and be like, you know what, we can do our own thing, we don't need you. And that's might be what you see. And if SEC does that, then Big 10 and Big 12 and ACC are going to follow suit, and you might even see the dissolving of the NCAA.
I think what it is, I think what you ought to do is like have an SEC East and SEC West. You know, just chop it down the middle, 8 teams, and that way you have a conference. You know, each will play a conference and then play in a bowl game. You know, sort of. Now they're talking about eliminating the championship games, the SEC championship game, which the SEC is not going to go for. No way.
Well, with the way the SEC is right now, you could end up having 4 divisions and have a 2-game playoff to go to the championship
pods,
game.
The old pods.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is if they continue to expand, they're going to have to do something like that, because I know that eventually, if we've already reached out and we pulled Texas now and Oklahoma State is kind of hanging out there by themselves. They're going to want to come in.
Yeah.
You know, and I see that, you know, you have teams like Texas Tech. You have teams like Baylor now. If you're reaching that far in Texas, you have teams, again, going back to Clemson. You have teams like Florida State, Miami. You have all of those teams that are going to want to get a piece of the pie, so to speak, if the SEC continues to grow. and continue to have success. And I honestly believe that the NCAA and this transfer portal and NIL was created to help pull from that.
Right.
Is what I think, and even the competition.
Absolutely.
But it's just a matter of time before it's right back to where it was. You know, the players are going to go right back into the pool of the SEC and the big conferences, and the smaller schools are going to keep losing out because they don't have the money, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Of course, the bowls, revenues, the bowl revenue. You're going to have the college football playoffs. You're going to have 12. They're going to think about going to 16, or sort of even 32, and that sort of thing. And that would affect the bowls, no doubt. But you just can't understand what's going to happen in the future. But stay tuned. It's going to be a rocky ride. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Bradley's happy holiday this year in arthritis.
No, I'm getting warmed up. Yeah. I'm getting warmed up. Baseball is upon us.
We're going to know it's got that little funny little game called America's pastime called baseball, and we're going to talk about George Foreman. And, of course, his passing, boxing legend George Foreman. As, of course, 50 years ago this year, it was the Rumble in the Jungle. And we'll talk a little bit about how that happened. And, of course, we'll be back in just 1 minute as you're watching Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, so what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. While you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
We're back, and we got a little bit of a news flash here. Gary Dallison, who does sports announcing for CBS, says he's going to retire after this upcoming college football season. Of course, yeah, I thought you'd do that. I thought you'd hear some people have some comments here, which I can't repeat because this is a family-oriented show. But Gary Dallison, of course, I didn't think wrong with Gary Dallison. People say that about Keith Jackson, but you can't.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Oh yeah, but Keith Jackson. But anyway, Gary Dallison, of course, he's not doing SEC football anymore, so I don't think you need to worry. But anyway, Gary Dallison is going to retire here afterwards. Now, of course, we're going to talk about a boxing legend, George Foreman, I believe.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, has named all his sons George, which is strange behavior. But anyway, I guess that's sort of, he won't have to worry about writing out duplicate birthday cards to George.
Right.
Okay, has died. George Foreman, of course, was one of those big boxers. He got his start actually boxing in the Job Corps when he went down there.
Most people most people in my generation probably only know him from the George Foreman grills. But friends, he was an exceptional athlete before he started selling the grills.
Yeah, absolutely, he was one of the great boxers, and he was, of course, 50 years ago. He took on Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle in Africa, and that was an interesting thing. And George Foreman described it this way: Ali knew he couldn't beat George Foreman in a straight-up fight because Foreman was just too powerful. So what he did the rope-a-dope, which basically he bounced up against the ropes around the ring and let Foreman wear himself out. And then the next thing he knew, he said, I never had somebody hit me so hard in all my life with Muhammad Ali. Said because the minute that he hit me in the jaw, my arms dropped, and I went down, and I tried to get up and I couldn't. And he said, and they later said he was down for a full 12 seconds. 10 seconds is the count. 12 seconds, and he lost that game. He said initially he thought somebody had doped his water, but he said he was just talking, all that. He said later him and Muhammad Ali had a great friendship going on and all that. He said, unfortunately, he said because really is that Ali, instead of going for the punch, which he would have done in his younger days, decided to go use his head as for tactics, and he let Foreman wear him out. Let Foreman wear himself out by the rope-a-dope. So basically, that's how it went. That was a true story, and they said that's how Foreman puts it. And he said, but him and Ali became fast friends in later years, and he was 76 years old when he died, and of course one of the big boxing legends. He said, however, Smoking Joe Frazier was not a fan of Ali and never really cared for him.
Right.
Okay, now let's talk about, of course, is that Bradley is celebrating with cakes and
tomorrow.
Flowers.
Just here, those of you everybody gets the next week off. Tell your bosses that I told you it was okay, because tomorrow is opening day for baseball season. Thursday, March 27th. The Dodgers and the Cubs have already opened up in Tokyo. They played last week, but this is official. Opening day, March 27th. Baseball is back.
I can't do anything with
and I'm excited.
I can't do anything with this man.
I have been practicing and warming up my chopper.
I thought it was arthritis.
I've been warming up my chopper all winter long. Yeah. I am ready to get out there and cheer on my Braves.
Seeing you on a chopper would be hilarious.
It'd fly in circles, I can tell you that.
Yeah, whatever. But I'm gonna put it on your truck, on the bumper sticker, on the bumper. It's gonna say Los Angeles Dodgers World Series champions.
I would do that in honor of my good buddy Albert Roberts. I would do. That's the only reason I would do that.
And I'm going to put on the front of your truck, Sequatchie County Indian fan.
I would do that in honor of my family that lives down south of the county line.
Sure.
But the second you put a New York Yankees sticker on my vehicle, or a New York Mets sticker on my vehicle, if I find out you did it, it's on, son. It is on, because the New York teams are the Florida Gators of baseball to me.
Oh, come on.
So man.
Oh, come on.
No,
of course, the Dodgers are favored to win it all again this year.
Yep,
they won it last year.
The pick to win the National League is obviously the Dodgers, and the pick to win the AL this year is the Boston Red Sox. And of course, it is an extreme early prediction, and Los Angeles is in the number one spot as far as being picked by the premier writers of the Major League Baseball.
I got only one thing to say about the Braves. Choke-tober. Mm-hmm. They'll choke just as surely as that old car I once had. They'll choke out. Won't go anywhere. It's how it is. And everybody knows now. I've talked to an expert. Mm-hmm. Is that the chop was brought in by Deion Sanders at Florida State, not by Atlanta. Atlanta stole the idea.
Anyway,
but looking at it this way, who do you think would be the go-to player on any team that would make that team a contender?
Well, if you're looking at the baseball teams that are tier-wise, they divided them up in tier one I already care about is Tier 1 and 2 because that's really going to be the teams that will likely be the contenders this year. The Dodgers are by themselves as far as Tier 1 in regards to the power index. The Dodgers have signed and done some trading. They've got an exceptional team. We're already stacked, and now they're even more stacked. They got Blake Snell in the rotation. That's huge to replace Kershaw that has retired. I mean, they still have Freddie Freeman at first. Mookie Betts in the outfield. Ohtani, DH, who will be working also as a pitcher this year. They believe he's going to get back to that dual role again where he pitches and bats. And they're stacked. They're a Tier 1 team. They don't have really any holes at all. Topping the Tier 2 teams as far as the power index is my Braves. And the reason for that is if they are healthy, they can compete with anybody. Because we're getting Strider back sometime this year. We get Acuna back at some point this year. And we got Profar from the Padres. So we could have one of the most prolific outfields in the league with Profar, Harris, and Acuna if they can stay healthy. And, of course, you're still going to have Albies at second. You still got Riley at third. You still got Olsen at first. And d'Arnaud, he went to the Angels. So we've got Murphy is the premier catcher. And it's Arcia still at short, but there may be some changes with that going on. We lost Fried. Fried went to the Yankees. Mm-hmm. We lost Mentor to the Mets, which is just broke my heart. But the Braves are slated to be next to the Dodgers. The top 5 teams actually, in the league based on power index are all National League teams.
Yeah.
And as far as that's concerned, the Dodgers are National League West. The next 3 teams, the power index, are all from the National League East. Braves, Phillies, Mets in that order, and the D-backs round that out, number 5, and they're also in the West with the Dodgers. Surprisingly, the pick to win the AL is the Boston Red Sox, but they were not even in the top 7. They're a Tier 3 team based on the power index, and the Yankees and the Orioles outranked them. So, again, it's so early. If you believe in polls and you like polls and things like that, it's interesting to read. But if the Braves pitching has got to step it up, the Dodgers keep playing the way they're playing. I mean, they're the defending champions. They're going to be the team to beat. The Yankees have got some good talent. The Orioles have good talent. All those teams that I mentioned, those top 7 teams, Tier 1 and Tier 2 teams, are exceptional. And they have a 98% chance of going to the playoffs and even going further. So, if I didn't mention your baseball team, there's still hope. There's still a lot of games to play. We've not even started. We don't start till tomorrow. So if I didn't mention your baseball team, don't give up because there's still a lot of games to play. We have 100+ games in a season, so it's going to be fine in how it shakes out. I do know that they not only try to pick the winners of each division. Of course, the Braves is picked to win the East again. Uh-huh. But they try to pick who's going to win the World Series. They try to pick who's going to be the Cy Young winners, who's going to be the MVPs for the National League and American League. And, of course, those of you who follow baseball know that in the National League, the Cy Young Award winner is Paul Skeens is the guy to beat. He is a pitcher for Pittsburgh, and he is one of the filthiest pitchers that I've seen in some time. A 6'6" frame. He kind of reminds you of the big unit, but he's got speed, he's got fast, he's got velocity, he's got off speed. I mean, he's an exceptional pitcher. And then Scuball from Detroit is picked to win the Cy Young very early. MVP for National League, Ohtani, go figure. Los Angeles Dodgers, dual threat pitcher and DH. And then you have ALV MVP is Bobby Witt from Kansas City. So, again, so early, a lot can happen. Strider was also mentioned. If he comes back and he's healthy to get that Cy Young for the National League, but I don't see anybody competing with Skeens to get that this year if they stay healthy. And I'm tickled to death. I'm excited because tomorrow I got a good lineup. First game tomorrow, Mike, is the team that I despise. The Yankees play the Brewers. Then you got the Phillies playing the Nationals at 4:10. At 4:15, and my Braves play the San Diego Padres. It's at San Diego. Your Cardinals play tomorrow. Dodgers play tomorrow. So, a lot of baseball. So turn it on. Tomorrow, watch baseball. Watch basketball Friday. basketball Saturday, and then it's just going to be a good day. It's going to be a good week.
Absolutely. While we're at it, let's talk about Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman, of course, died recently at age 95 from Alzheimer's and a number of maladies, along with his wife. He had done a lot of movies. He'd done like westerns, science fiction, and comedy, that sort of thing. But one movie which stands out for me, which I thought was the definitive sports movie, and that was Hoosiers, where he played a head coach of a very small Indiana team, Indiana high school team, who made it all the way to state championship in Indiana in the 1950s. Now, anybody who wants to watch a sports film now, I mean, there's a lot of sports films out there that sort of like Major League was one of them, which I thought was funny because they had Bob Uecker with his trademark over to the right or whatever.
Just a bit outside.
Just a bit outside, yeah, that sort of thing. And now, of course, Major League Unnecessary Roughness, which is more of a comedy than anything else. But Hoosiers was a definitive movie because it was a serious movie. This was a true story. And I thought that was one of the most significant. So if you ever want to watch a sports movie that really shows what the spirit of sport is, what it was then, watch Hoosiers. That's one of the great films. Gene Hackman did a great job in it. Should have gotten an Oscar for it. Should have gotten another story. But like I said, sports movies, and of course we'll probably discuss more about sports movies. What our favorite sports movies are, and what our least favorite sports movies. What are accurate and what are not, like such as the Babe, about Babe Ruth, and that sort of thing. But that sort of thing. So this will do it for us.
Wait.
Wait a minute. What?
I almost forgot something.
Oh no, here we go.
Hold on.
Here we go.
I just about forgot something
I was hoping.
very important.
We are in trouble.
We did at the very beginning of last football season.
They'll clear out the viewership like a fire drill.
At the very beginning of last season, we did.
Oh no, he's going to
picks.
do this again.
And
he does this
I
every
am
year.
certain that I have it somewhere. Maybe I don't. Mike, you're supposed to have it on your phone. But the picks, and I don't have them.
Well, what a shame. Okay, well, we can see what to get there on this one. And
all I know is Mike lost again.
I didn't lose again.
My picks are more accurate. The scores are closer.
I've heard that one song before.
So I hate to break it to you, buddy.
Yeah, sure. You've been saying that all night long. Let's see here. Let's see what. Let's see here. Oh, I gotta tell you something right now. Do I have to humiliate you? Must I always?
Here's what we're gonna do. The next 2 weeks when we do another show, I'm gonna bring my copy. I've got it on my iPad. I know.
He says that I do
And
on
I'm
every
gonna bring
one
it.
of those.
I'm gonna bring it.
He used to do it in envelopes.
I'm going to blow it up on a big piece of poster board and put it right back here so that everybody at home can see it. And I'm going to show you why I never showed you those envelopes, because I didn't want to humiliate you and your picking ability.
No, what it is?
I didn't. I mean,
you're cheating. That's not sportsmanship.
it's not cheating if you had
It's not
this.
cheating. It's
Well,
sportsmanship.
anyway, you got saved by the deletion of the photo.
Whatever. And I've heard this song before. Okay, but anyway, well, this will do it here for the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18, and of course we'll hopefully see you next time around. Bradley, do you have any final words? And I know hopefully you might
Last
have
words. I always have last
start
words.
at the end.
Here we are. Before we close up. Go Blue. Bledsoe Sports, baseball, softball, flag football, boys soccer. It's all going down right now. Go Braves tomorrow, opening day. Can't wait. And go Big Orange. We got the NCAA tournament, ladies and men, still playing Sweet 16. Get out there and support them. Go Blue, go Braves, go Big Orange.
So be sure to, of course, go to the sports. Of course, soccer is coming up Saturday for the boys, and of course, softball, baseball, and all sorts of sports as well. We encourage you to attend those as well and show support for the Warriors, the blue and gold. So again, as I said, this should do it here. We're going to see you next time here on the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. We're glad that you tuned in to us. In fact, from what I heard, we got some 20,000 likes which either indicates they either like what we're doing or they're just simply bored. But that should do it here tonight. We'll see you next time here on the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. Good day, everybody. We'll see you next time.